Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury.
Electrifying.
Yes, guys, and welcome back to the Cannon Podcast. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you are all good. We are fantastic because instead of going through this international break, which, by the way, is so boring, although I do keep myself occupied every Tuesday, 8 p.m. for the Great British Bake Off. Absolutely love that. I am your classic mum in terms of some of the TV I do like to watch. But
see, I'm a Master Chef guy, so this is like
Same.
Ronaldo. This is like Ronaldo, Messi. This is like X Factor versus The Voice. You know, this is
Britain's Got Talent, Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah, this is PS4 versus Xbox. Like, this is, you know, Apple versus Samsung, Nike versus Adidas. I sit on the Master Chef side of things.
Do you? Oh.
I do. I have to be honest.
We might have to fall out, actually.
I know. I think the pod might be over. Like, not just our show. I think the Cannon podcast might collapse now.
Yeah, delete it all.
This rivalry. So yeah, prepare for us to disagree for the next 20 minutes.
But no, I mean, if you're not excited about that sort of stuff, you will be excited about what we're going to talk about. And we have just rewatched the Newcastle games, the second half of the Newcastle match, in which the euphoria, the buzz that we had, we weren't able to do it beforehand, which we spoke about in the previous rewatch that we did for West Ham and Olympiacos. But we had time to do it, and we had a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to get our teeth stuck into. And you can also access that by becoming a Patreon or YouTube member, and you can access the free 7-day trial within the link below, rewatches, ad-free main pods, scouted, data pods, lots of different content. Got Discord server access as well, in which your questions are going to be prioritized. So lots of things to get your teeth stuck into. So let's go straight into it. And I kind of want to set the scene, James, before I want you to give me your points and big takeaway, where I feel like that 22-23 performance against Newcastle is massively overrated. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like we've been using that game as a benchmark of how to play Newcastle, how to win at St. James's Park, which I think doesn't take into account the fact that Newcastle have got significantly better since that season. They press a lot more aggressively. We saw pretty much for the entirety of the half, they're going man-to-man, really aggressive, 1v1s all over the park, and it becomes a really difficult encounter in which you need to be physically at it at a baseline level before you can then start to play your football. And we played our football because we matched them physically. And I thought this performance was fantastic and way better than the 22-23 campaign. But yeah, give me your first point and we'll discuss.
Yeah, we had a really good chat on the rewatch about that very thing. You know, was the 22-23 win overrated? And I think what I said, and maybe I can put it more eloquently now, is I don't see it overrated in terms of how big and impressive a win it was. Mm-hmm. I think it's overrated in the sense that if Arsenal went and played like that again at St. James's Park, I'd be a little concerned. Even if they came away with a win, I'd say, right, we played some brilliant football through the lines. There were some nice moments. But at the same time, like, they peppered our goal at times in that game. There was a lot of last-ditch defending. There was a lot of backs against the walls and players coming through. And I remember specifically there was a lot of praise for individuals and what they did to get us over the line, more so than like this kind of collective tactical brilliance. Now, Arteta went with Jorginho and Zinchenko in that game to give us some technical quality. Now, that is tactically brilliant. So there was obviously some real things we did very well. But I agree, they're a better team now than they were back then. And yeah, if Arsenal were under that amount of pressure in St. James's Park again, I'd be a bit concerned because ultimately, as good as they are, as much as it's St. James's Park, they're not challenging for the title. No one's expecting them to. They've just lost their best player. I'd be a bit concerned if we were under that kind of pressure again. So just wanted to say that I support your point in a slightly different way, but I definitely do. Now, in this game, Arsenal were a lot more on the front foot, a lot more aggressive, had a lot more control, which is the word we often use with Arteta's style of football. And the point I wanted to bring up was the 3-1-6 formation that Arsenal used. But it's not just that Arsenal go, oh, we need an extra, we need a goal, so let's just get an extra attacker in the front line. It's actually that they do it totally alternating who goes where. Saliba could be right centre-back, he could be centre-back. Zubimendi could be right centre-back, he could be in the 10 where Eze is right now. Trossard could be where he is now, a little bit more tucked in, or he could be out wide with Calafiori. The constant rotations were unbelievable. I'll now leave it to you to sort of take over on this, but the amount Arsenal constantly rotated between who stood where, Zubimendi, it was like he was given a free role. It's like Arteta said to him, Zubi, you know instinctively where you need to be. I want Saliba and Gabriel at the back. I want Rice sitting in front of the shield. And I want Zubimendi to constantly alternate with Saka, with Timber, with Eze, with Trossard, to constantly pick up different areas so that you're keeping Newcastle guessing. And I thought he was terrific, Zubimendi, in that second half, better than I even realised on first watch. But I think the rotation of the players is what does it, not just having an extra attacker, because if you have an extra attacker, you've got a defender less.
Yeah.
It's the way they manipulated Newcastle's shape into pick up different positions, but also forced Eddie Howe into making substitutions he probably didn't want to make.
Absolutely. You spoke about that really well. And I think for me, like, the 65th minute, Eddie Howe recognised the type of game that it was likely to become in terms of one in which Newcastle are going to have to suffer. They're going to have to sink a lot deeper. And that's why I brought Kieran Trippier on, and they went for an actual back five to try and mitigate what we were trying to do. So, this formation is slightly exaggerated in terms of on your screen, but you can kind of see the way that we were looking to set up predominantly in the final third. And
I don't think it's remotely exaggerated, mate. I think this is exactly how it looked. I mean, we had stills of it. I mean, Arsenal really were that attacking and had that many players in the pocket.
Absolutely. I'm kind of saying exaggerate in terms of Arsenal didn't always, set out this shape if, in terms of when we're deeper, etc. There's so many different structures that you have to deploy. I mean, when Arsenal were deeper, we saw so many times Newcastle pressing man-to-man, and then we're doing different things with Trossard abandoning width and allowing Gyökeres to hit the channel. But once we penned them in, you can see this shape very much in play. And we spoke about it against West Ham, where Timber was very aggressive in the half space, and then that allowed Saka to have the 1v1s free against the fullback. This time I felt there was profound emphasis on getting Eze a lot more central and closer to zone 14, in which you can then play off Gyökeres and you can receive the ball in these areas. And I think for me, there's a lot of positives to this. One, it means Gordon then has to track deeper. So then it allows Zubimendi to carry in this space, or if it's Saliba at right centre-back wide, he can carry into that space because Gordon is now having to track the run from Timber. Whereas if Timber's a little bit deeper, so, if you've got this classic shape that you will all know, if Timber is here and he receives the ball, Gordon can then press onto him a lot more, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for us to play. So I think Timber's positioning there is key. And the other point I want to make is the fact that you add another player high in Timber here, it means you've got 3 players between the lines on top of Gyökeres, so it becomes a lot more harder. It's a lot more difficult for Newcastle to be able to screen those passes, and we saw a lot of opportunities for us to play balls through the lines and being able to get players like Eze in tight spaces, so many silky touches, one touch, and then laying it off. And we caused a lot of threat there. And I really liked that. And I felt that this was one of the many things we spoke about that was a big positive.
Yeah, totally agree. And one of the things we highlighted in the rewatch was that the likes of Bruno, Tonali, Joe Linton, they don't really want to be pulled into different areas. They're thinking, well, they're in our half, so let's maintain a shape and let's cut off the lines. Yeah. So if you've got them going, well, we don't really want to follow the players, let's cut off the lines, make sure there's too many lines for them to follow. And that's essentially what we did. We basically said, all right, well, you can't block every line off, so we're just going to get more players into that area. It sounds like a chess or pieces of a puzzle. Well, if you add more players, there's more lines and therefore it's better. It's not that easy to execute, because in doing that, you got to have the right rest defense, you got to have the right shape, you got to have the right players in the right environment, in the right areas of the pitch to be able to deal with what happens when you lose the ball. And that's the risk. There's give and take. So you want to get Timber high and wide. You want to get Zubimendi in the pocket a little bit more. Right, that's all well and good. But to do that, you're making yourself way more susceptible to a counterattack. We see that with Murphy. We see Declan Rice get back and deal with it. But the genius was that Declan Rice wasn't one of the players getting into the higher lines of attack. I mean, he actually did to win the corner for the first goal. But largely he wasn't doing that because he was covering back. And I just think it was really clever from Arteta, the way he used everyone. Ødegaard, Rice, Marino, Zubimendi, every midfielder he used in that game. I thought was very, very clever the way he used them. And yeah, Arteta, who, it's funny, a lot of people think I've been a massive cynic and critic of Arteta recently because I didn't love some of his comments post Manchester City and the setup with Mourinho. But from this podcast and my reaction to the Newcastle win and West Ham, and I've done videos defending him against Amorim and with the long throws and all this stuff. I've had a lot of defending to do with Mikel because for whatever reason, you can be top of the table, getting top results, doing things tactically, and still people go, yeah, but you've never won anything. It's like, well, if this is it, then what's the point in living, man? If if you don't get to the top, then we can't praise anything you do good. Fair play to him. I think he did really well.
Absolutely, and I think that point that you made about the way that he's managed that game, with the inclusion of Mikel Merino, we spoke about it in the video in which the moment Eddie Howe makes that change with Kieran Trippier, Mikel responds immediately and says, right, we are anticipating the type of game that is going to happen a lot more now. We need someone who's going to be able to find space and give us that extra threat in the box when balls are coming into those areas. And Mikel Merino was the first one to come on. And he gets the decisive goal that gets us back in it. And I think the other player, in which we certainly have to talk about, although I do think we should stress just how well Eze played in that game as well. Right?
Yeah, he was really good,
really good, and I felt like every Arsenal fan will want Eze to be in specific areas of the pitch. Newcastle is literally where you wanted Eze to play. A lot of shots on goal, a lot of really silky touches. Yeah. Very unlucky to not get on the score sheet. And I felt, like I said, the way that we used Timber, the way that Zubimendi was rotating, which is something that has become very prevalent to his game. And that's had a really good ripple effect for others, the likes of Declan Rice. Someone like Eze is benefiting massively from that as well. But the other player in which Mikel, I think, was the key in terms of allowing that ascendancy to continue towards the dying embers of the game was Martin Ødegaard. I thought it was fantastic. We spoke about him before in the previous rewatch. I think it was Olympiacos, actually, before West Ham. Ødegaard he's starting to build a lot more momentum. I feel like he's been building momentum since that PSG away game, that second leg. And it was fantastic. Like, it was textbook 23-24 Martin Ødegaard. A lot of touches on the ball, outside the block, drifting, rotating, trying to find solutions. And he's a really smart footballer. I think we don't realise just how smart he is, like in that sort of role with that licence, cooking.
But I think some people think like criticism of Ødegaard's performances is also criticism of the player. And people are going to go, yeah, why wouldn't it that be? So let me just land on my point here.
Go on.
I could be critical of the way he's playing and the way he's being used, but still think he's a very good footballer. Yeah. My opinion on his level actually hasn't changed in the last year. I still think he is more 23-24 than he is 24-25. I don't think he went through a purple patch. I think he went through a bad patch.
Yeah.
I think his level is more what we saw. Because I think 21-22 he was getting better, 22-23 he was great, and 23-24 he was outstanding. So for me, there's 3 years of clear improvement having a real impact on this team, with 1 year where he wasn't at it, and then you can explain injuries and the baby and all these other things if you want, whatever, right? So I think his level is more what we saw before. But I was so infuriated constantly seeing him get the ball out on the touchline in the hope of finding some space. And what we saw Eze do in this game was say, give me the ball with my back to goal. Give me the ball, with players on me. That moment where he gets the ball with the defender on him. He slips, but he just reaches the leg out. And as he's lifting himself up, takes the ball with him.
Yeah.
Ødegaard rarely does that. I know there's one moment a few years ago where he did something like that. But Eze, it comes very naturally, that guile, that carrying or whatever. Now, Ødegaard, for me, it doesn't come naturally to him. But look at the way he can float around. Look at the passes he can play from deep. Look at the way he can run a game of football. And I think he probably does that better than an Eze. I think Eze isn't someone who can go, let me just get control of this game and calm it down. But Ødegaard is, and they complement each other brilliantly. Now, I don't think the answer is Eze, Ødegaard, and Rice at the base, or Zubimendi. I think it is Eze coming in off the left, because then you've got that blend of questions you're asking the opposition. Well, he's really creative from central areas. He's really direct from wide areas. And we don't know what he's going to throw at us.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you get both in the team. But I went off on a tangent. I think Ødegaard's a terrific footballer. And you saw how him and Eze could share the pitch together and do different things to cause Newcastle different problems. And I'm delighted we went and got Eze.
Mate, it's different tools, different qualities to allow you to combat different things, right? I mean, like the way that we've been using Trossard, we saw it a lot in this game in terms of him abandoning width and then coming inside. You thinking Eze could brilliantly thrive in that sort of role to facilitate a Gyökeres to hit the channel. And then you've got an Ødegaard there as well in the right central midfield role. And I think with Ødegaard, I'll go one step further. I actually think in his loan spell, his initial loan spell, he had a lot of really encouraging performances. I remember at the North London derby, he scored the opening goal. We all remember that West Ham game, you know, the 3-3, that was like the big Ødegaard game in which he dictated and he got us back into proceedings. And there was a couple of good games towards the back end of that season as well, against Crystal Palace, against Brighton as well. I think Ødegaard is a fantastic player. I've never sat in the camp of this is someone who we need to start looking to replace because of the 24-25 season. I felt like it was a bad season by his standards, but I attribute that more towards external factors than it being the type of player that Ødegaard is, because I've got sample size, a really big sample size of Martin Ødegaard performing consistently for Arsenal Football Club. You know, so it's like, and that's what's really frustrating, that he picks up this injury again, and it's like, you know, if this doesn't happen, 3 home games, picking up an injury, then getting subbed off, and it's disappointing for sure. But thankfully, the way that we operated in the summer market with contingency, we are now in a position to be able to react and respond because we've got options there to allow us to go through these next set of games. But yeah, I thought it was fantastic, and certainly the driver for me in terms of allowing us to maintain that pressure and get that all-important winner with the classic Big Gabby.
Yeah.
Douche.
So I've got to say, even it put a massive smile on my face just rewatching it. I went, this was good.
Absolutely brilliant. But no, that was fantastic. Honestly, really good to rewatch. Yeah. And we'll definitely be doing a cheeky 6-0 against Fulham maybe next.
No, why'd you jinx it? Oh,
it's happening. Don't worry. We're winning at
off the podcast.
It's so long overdue.
I'm telling you. No. You did not see me on this podcast. You did not see me on it. No, look.
It's happening.
You're too funny. Look, I think Fulham will prove tough. But I think the last 2 years there, I think last year we were I was about to say we've been unlucky to lose. Not that we haven't been unlucky to lose, but I just think we've left goals on the pitch a little bit. Is that right? It's hard to explain because we haven't been particularly creative.
I didn't think we were bad at Fulham last season, personally. Genuinely.
Yeah, if I'm remembering right, I don't think we were either. The year before we weren't great, but I just think that they were Arsenal teams and in different patches of form. Yeah, this is an Arsenal team in good form with more options, with more answers to problems, and I'm hoping that carries us through. And I think, you know, we were capable of getting results in the last 2 years where we dropped points with more adversity in front of us. So I'm hoping that Arsenal kind of overcome that and finally get a win, because we were brilliant when we beat them 3-0 a couple of years ago, where that first half we totally cooked them with 4, 5 or 6. But let's see, man.
Let's see for sure. We will see for sure. But no, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it, James?
Yeah, I really did, man. Honestly, it's always a pleasure watching games back like this. Let's just hope Arsenal keep giving us some really fun rewatches.
Absolutely. And like I said before, if you guys wanted to catch that rewatch and catch previous rewatches as well, you can do so by becoming a Patreon or YouTube member. Thank you all for tuning in. And last but not least, thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Inspiration.